Hello and welcome to the spoken tutorial on More on Forms in HTML. In this tutorial, we will learn about form elements and input types in HTML. To practice this tutorial, you should have knowledge of HTML. If not, then go through the corresponding tutorials on this website. To record this tutorial, I am using Ubuntu Linux 16.04 operating system, HTML5, gedit text editor, Firefox web browser. However, you may use any other editor or browser of your choice. The files used in this tutorial are available in the code files link on this tutorial page. Please download and extract them. Open the file mywebform.html, which we created earlier in this series, in a text editor. We learnt about some of the input types earlier. Now let us learn some other form input types. Let me add a field for date of birth in the registration form. Next to the last name, type the code as shown. Here I have used the input type date. Save the file. Open the file mywebform.html in a web browser and observe the output. Here we see a field to select date, month and year. We can either type the values manually or we can use the controls to select the desired date, month and year. We have used the input type date in this example. Likewise, we have some other input types to get date time from the user. These are the date and time input types available in HTML. Explore these on your own. Switch back to the text editor. Now let me add the code to get the input for gender. Next to the date of birth input, type the code as shown. I have set the input type as radio. Here I have written a single label and 3 input fields with the same name gender. The user will select any one option from these 3. But each section will have a different value. Based on the selection, the respective value will be stored. Save the file. Switch to the browser and refresh the page. Notice that the gender field is displayed and it has 3 radio buttons. Let me click on the male radio button. Now click on the female radio button. Immediately, the male radio button is unselected. Suppose we have one more set of radio buttons. How will it work? Let us check. Switch to the code. Add one more field called residential status. Next to the gender field, type the code as shown. Save the file. Switch to the browser and refresh the page. We got one more set of radio buttons for residential status. Let me click on the male radio button in the gender field. Then click on Indian in the residential status field. Notice that when we click on the radio button Indian, the male radio button remains selected. As the radio button name is different, the selection is unchanged in the gender field. Switch back to the text editor. Next, we'll add the code to get a phone number from the user. Type the code as shown here. Here, I have set the input type as number. Save the file. Switch to the browser and refresh the page. We got a field for contact number. Let me type a phone number in this field. Using the controls, we can increase or decrease the numbers. This is how the number input type works. Instead of number input type, we can also use tell to get phone number. Next, let us try another form element called select. Next to the contact number input type, type the code as shown. Here, I have written a code to select city from a list. For this, I am using select tag. It has both start and an end. Using the option tag, we can add values to the list. Save the file. Switch to the browser and refresh the page. We got the city field along with the drop-down list. We can select only one value from the list. By default, the first value is pre-selected. There is another way of showing this option. Let me demonstrate that. Switch to the editor. Before the select start tag, type the code as shown. Then, after the select end tag, type the code as shown. I have used the tag data list before the select element. This will store the select option value in the form of a list. Next to the data list end tag, type the code as shown. Here I have included a text input type and included the data list inside the input field. Save the file. Switch to the browser and refresh the page. The drop-down is changed as a text field for city. Let me type CH. Immediately, the values which start from CH will be displayed. This feature is similar to Google search. This is the specialty of data list element in HTML5. Now say you want to group some of the form elements together, and you want to do this such that it doesn't affect the other elements. For that, we have an element called field set. Switch to the text editor. Let us create a field for mail ID and password fields. Before the email label field, type the code as shown. Along with the field set, I have used the legend tag to give a name for the field. However, the legend tag is not mandatory. Next to the retype password field, close the field set. Save the file. Switch to the browser and refresh the page. Till now, we have created a form to get some data from the user. Once we have filled the form, we will click the submit button to proceed further. Now, we will see how can we send this data to the next step. Form method will be used when we are working with interactive web pages and client-server mechanism. Each form will send the data to the next step for processing based on two methods: get, post. This has to be defined inside the form start tag. Get method will pass the values via URL. Passed values will be seen in the URL. Whereas post method will pass the values via HTTP request. Passed values will not be seen in the URL. It is advisable to use post method for secure transactions like login and money transactions. This is the syntax. Here, the action attribute defines the place to which the values have to be passed. With this, we have come to the end of this tutorial. Let us summarize. In this tutorial, we have learnt about form input types: date, radio, number; form elements: select, data list, field set; form methods: get, post, in HTML. As an assignment, open the file myloginform.html. Get the following details from the user: date of birth, gender, city. The video at the following link summarizes the spoken tutorial project. Please download and watch it. The Spoken Tutorial project team conducts workshops and gives certificates. For more details, please write to us. Please post your timed queries in this forum. Spoken Tutorial project is funded by MHRD, Government of India. This is Praveen from IIT Bombay signing off. Thank you for joining.